And we are live. Welcome to the third episode of the Martial Arts Mastery Podcast. I'm Grandmaster Jonathan Field, and we have a special guest here. We have Shihan Larry Field, who's a multiple time world champion, ISKA breaker, school owner, business owner, excellent martial artist. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you invited me on.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, you and I have known each other in person since July 2007, but it was actually a few years, probably maybe 2005 or 2004, when I actually called you up on the phone because you had a bunch of VHS tapes of breaking from Century Martial Arts, and you actually had your phone number on those tapes because you're willing to share information and help people in the breaking. So you gave me a little bit of advice, and I think you were the first breaker we met when we went down to the U.S. Opens in 2007.
I was so excited that you guys were there. We'd had some other Canadian people come in and compete at the U.S. Open, but it was nice to have some quality breakers. And your guys, it seemed like they were pretty well trained and ready to rock and roll. So it was nice.
And it was kind of cool. And I remember one of the first things he said was, because my father is Larry Field without an S, and you're Larry Field with an S. So that was kind of cool to see the two Larrys meet as well. That was kind of a surreal moment. But I remember, oh, this is gonna be. I don't know if I think I was still in high school, and I was watching ESPN, or actually TSN, or ESPN up here in Canada, and the U.S. Opens came on, and actually it was you were like the first breaker I ever saw. It was you and Chip Townsend were the first breakers I ever saw on TV, which is kind of funny because you're both from the same town of Abilene, Texas.
Yes, yes, it was quite interesting because I had been going to the U.S. Open and competing, and then Chip came on and started competing. So it was kind of cool to have, I had always brought a lot of people from Abilene to go and compete. So it was interesting to have, a rival dojo in our own town going and competing.
Yeah, 'cause they often said on commentary that Abilene was the what's the word? Not epicenter, but
Mecca of breaking. Yeah, I
not
remember them saying that.
mecca of breaking, right? They say the Kufu is the mecca of Taekwondo. So yeah, they were saying Abilene was the mecca of that. I remember hearing that a couple times. It was like, yeah, it was cool. I mean, you guys were definitely fierce rivals in when you guys were competing against each other. You guys were always so cool. But let's go back to the starting. So how did Larry Field start out in martial arts?
Well, it's kind of a weird story. My dad left when I was 5, and I never did hear too many good things about my dad from anybody until we finally moved to Texas. But what I wanted to beat him up. I wanted to beat him up. My mom was always watching martial arts movies. She was head over heels in love with Chuck Norris, and we watched every Chuck Norris movie that ever came out. So I kind of, from the time I was little, when I first started watching Chuck Norris, I always thought martial arts would be good and a good guy could, beat up the bad guy. And I felt like my dad was the bad guy. So I went into a karate school up in the Rhode Island area. It was a YMCA, and they were teaching Taekwondo. And I was in there and I was doing Taekwondo, and I was like, man, this is not for me. This isn't for me. And my mom really couldn't afford it, so we moved. We ended up moving soon after that to Texas, and there was another karate school there, and a friend of mine said, man, come down and do this karate with us, it's pretty cool. I was like, nah, I've already done that, that's not really something I want to do. And he said, no, come on, let's go, let's go. So he kept on me, so finally I went down, and the instructor was like, he was a traditional Japanese martial artist, and he said, you can kick somebody in the head, and there's nothing wrong with kicking somebody in the head, but was your hand closer to their head or is your foot closer to their head? So I kind of like, oh, I'm hooked. I like this. So I started working with him, And I kept thinking in the back of my head, I want to get even with my dad. I want to take care of him. He's a bad guy. And I was coming up in the ranks, and he had heard from my mom that my whole thing was I was going to um, use this to beat up my dad with and get even with my dad. So he, on one of our high level green belt tests, he said, "Hey, Larry, we did some martial arts and did the test. And after the test was over, it wasn't even over yet. He said, Larry, why do you want to learn martial arts?" And being a dumb kid that I was, I told him, I'm gonna find my dad. I'm gonna beat him to death. And he said, "Okay, fine. Take your stuff and get out. I'm not teaching you to kill people. I'm teaching you to be able to protect yourself." And I was mad. I was really mad then. And I'd always had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. So I went home and I started practicing in my backyard. And then my mom really got mad. She said she called him up and told him that he's still doing it and he's not even coming down there. And um, he told her to send me back down. And I went back down and he said, "How come you're working out on your own by yourself?" And I said, "Well, I got a couple people that I want to get even with," because I kind of thought of him as a role model, as a dad. So he he said, "Look, you're not coming back to the dojo," because I had my bag with me and my gi and everything. I thought I was coming back to the dojo. And he said, "You know the problems of an 11-year-old boy. You don't know the problems of a grown man." And I was like, "Oh my goodness." And he said, "Now go on. I'm not teaching you how to kill people here. I'm teaching you how to become a martial artist." So I left. And then I really, really made my mom mad. I thought she'd been mad in the past, but I started trying to find my dad. And that really upset her. And she called him back up, and she called him everything but a white man. And he sent word through one of my friends to come back. And when I got back to the dojo, I didn't bring none of my stuff or anything. And he said, "How come you're trying to find your dad?" And I said, "Well, I want to know why he left." And he said, "He didn't leave you, he left the situation." I'm not saying he's right for doing that. What I am saying is, you only know half of the story. I'm glad that you're trying to find your dad. I said, "Well, I want to know his side of it." And he said, "That's good. That's good." So he took me back, and my first class back was breaking. And he sat me down, and I got no in sitting position, which is you're sitting on the inside of on your thigh, on your shins, on the floor, and on your knees. And he said, now he had some bricks in front of me, and he showed me how to hit it, and I hit it, and I've been hooked on breaking ever since. But he told me, he said, "I have to train you different than I train everyone else because of your anger. Your anger is something that you can use your entire life to get through stuff, but you have to use it in a good way, not in a bad way. Because once you let that anger out to roam around, it's going to hurt people and it's going to hurt you eventually." So he taught me that my anger was okay to have, but how to use it in a better way. So that's how I got involved in martial arts, and that's how I became, a pretty decent breaker in the world.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a very powerful lesson in itself. That yes, people need to realize yes, it's okay to have anger. It's a normal emotion that we all have, but you have to be able to control it. And then once you're able to control it, you can use it. So yeah, so like you and I have had this discussion before, and I know competing alongside you and against you many times over the years, being up on stage, and when we're doing like training breaking, especially, you're a different person. Like when you step on, you're ready to break. You can see you're kind of you that switch on where that anger is now a little bit in control of hitting that material. But then when you're done breaking, it kind of gets shut off again and kind of put back in the box. If that would be a good analogy for it. But
Yeah, sometimes it's hard.
yeah,
It's hard to put it back in the box once you let it out, but you
yeah.
have to learn how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, not everybody knows how to do it. But that's also a powerful lesson in that people don't realize, yeah, like there's a lot of situations that happen to us, and a lot of time we're only seeing any given situation from our specific perception, and we're not getting the whole story, right? So if somebody leaves, you're only getting half the story. So that's also very powerful. Did you ever end up connecting with your father at all, or? That's just
I
kind of
did. I did. Years later, I finally did find him. And we had a more or less of a phone relationship.
uh-huh.
We talked on the phone, um, and it wasn't too bad.
Well, that's good that you kind of got a little bit of closure out of that situation. So that's that not everybody gets a chance to do that. So then moving on, all right, so you started training and breaking at 11. Now when was your first breaking tournament?
I think it was in 2000, 1990, 95 or 94.
Okay.
I started doing some karate tournaments.
Mhm,
And then I found some actually had breaking tournaments. I don't know if you remember the old NBL, National Black Belt League, and SKI.
mhm,
I competed in their tournaments for many years. I also competed in AOK and AOK tournaments in Texas. Um, but the NBL was where I really got to start working on breaking in competition. I also went to, I don't know if you remember Barbie and Stan Witt. They used to have some big tournaments in Las Vegas. They had some world tournaments in Las Vegas.
mhm.
Um, those are always fun.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing 'cause I started martial arts back in '98, so I remember seeing back when I took over to school in 2003. I remember seeing some flyers from the National Black Belt League, and I think they had a couple up in my area at one point, like Niagara Falls, over on the American side. Um, yeah, but then um, now moving forward, now what got you into wanting to compete at the U.S. Open? So, I don't obviously must have been breaking, but like, how did you hear about the U.S. Open? I know I heard about the U.S. Open through I think it was Black Belt magazine. It was either Black Belt magazine or Taekwondo Times. I think it was Black Belt magazine, and um, I saw the ad for that. So, how did you get involved with the U.S. Opens? And ISK? You hear me? So, sounds like you got a
Can you hear me?
little. Yep. Okay, we're back. Yep. Did you hear my question about how did you get back? How did you get involved with the U.S. Kind of like we're got some bad connections here, guys. So bear with us. Okay, are you back now?
Oh, there we go. There we go. I don't know what happened. It just went blank.
I have.
Um,
So I was saying was how did you like I was introduced to the U.S. Open via TV, but also ads for the U.S. Opens in the Black Belt magazine. How did you find out about the U.S. Opens and ISK and kind of get involved in that?
well, what happened was I was going around all these karate tournaments, and like all martial artists, I was running out of money.
Mm,
So I obtained a sponsor, a local sponsor in Cisco, Texas, and he said go to these tournaments, and he was thrilled to death with my daughter and I. We showed him what we could do. We used to do a little self-defense routine, and he loved it. He laughed and he said, I'm going to sponsor y'all. So that was my first year to really go to a lot of tournaments. We went to California tournaments. I went to the ones in Mexico, Vancouver, um, all over. Uh, we went to tournaments all over the place. And he would actually ship my bricks in, get my bricks for me. He took care of everything for me, paid for everything. It was really a really good sponsorship. It was Robert Kamen out of Cisco, Texas. He's a big oil guy. So he sponsored me that year, and um, then he had some health issues and wasn't going to be able to sponsor me anymore. Um, but before that happened, Dave Ryan at a Liberal, Kansas, had a big martial arts team, and he wanted me on his team, and it was pretty much the same deal. Not as good, but pretty good, pretty good for what we have now. And he took me and we went to. He said, "Hey, we're going to these tournaments," and he started sponsoring me, and we went to a bunch of tournaments all over. My daughter Samantha she won a bunch of world titles in fighting in self-defense. I won several for fighting and breaking and sparring. And then he said, "There's a huge tournament coming up. I want you and Samantha. She's going to fight and you're going to break." And I'm like, "What? I'm not doing self-defense. I'm not doing break. I'm not doing fighting." He goes, "Nope. We're just doing what we've won in the best. And you've won in breaking and she's won in fighting." So we flew us down there. We went to Orlando, and he's the one who told us about the ISKA World Championship. So our first year there, she won a world title in fighting, and I won my first world title in breaking for the ISKA.
And what year was that?
I think that was 99 or 2000, something like that.
It has been 99, I think, because just because I've seen all the videos from literally 1999 up till recently. I've been watching everybody. Well, you gave me a bunch of those videos to watch for a while, but yeah. So then 99, and then so then you became one of the, well, are probably the best competitive. Right? I mean, use the word competitive because there's obviously a lot of different terminology or different opinions out there as far as what who's the world's best breaker is or what the criteria should be. But you're definitely, if not definitely one of, if not definitely the best competitive breaker out there. How many world titles have you won in the ISKA? Like something like 40 something?
Yes, in ISKA, yes, I have a total of 54 world titles. But as far as the ISKA goes, I have like 41, 39 world titles from
Nice.
ISKA.
Then at least one more. I know I have 12 world titles, 11 USDA, WBA worlds, and then one ISK. I would like to at least get one more, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah. So then I said I know right now.
Were
So
you
then
were you there the year that they did the team breaking?
yeah, that was 2007.
Yeah, that
That
was cool. That was cool.
was
I
that
wish
was
they would do that again.
yeah, so that was Team Bergamo versus who was the other team? Team Bergamo versus
Mike Reeves' team. Mike Reeves' team.
yeah, yeah. 'Cause, yeah, you guys were on the right side of the stage. If I was in the audience, you guys were on the right side, and I believe Mike Reeves' team was on the left side. And you guys, Team Bergamo won that one, correct?
Oh yes, yeah. That's the only year that they've done it, and yes, it was myself and Clinton Murphy.
Yep.
Maybe it was Drew Serrano. I can't remember if it was Drew. I know it was Clinton myself for
Yeah,
sure.
well, yeah, 'cause I remember it was yeah. Each team had three breakers, and each breaker had three breaks to do.
Yes,
So I
yes.
remember that very clearly. So that was my first year. So I remember competing on the Friday for the USBA. We're at amateur level, and I ended up winning a second, third, and fourth, which is not bad for just coming down there not knowing what the heck was going on. And then, yeah, and I remember watching Saturday. I remember watching you guys uh, do all the stuff during Saturday, throughout Saturday. We're filming it all. Actually, I probably have a cassette tape somewhere of you guys competing, actually. And then 2008, that's when I started competing with the ISK in the power kicking division because being a Taekwondo guy, kicking was kind of my thing. Now, how did you get involved in Team Virtual?
Well, it was kind of the same deal. Um, Dave Ryan out of Liberal, Kansas, wasn't going to sponsor a team, and I was kind of going on my own and competing down there for a couple of years. And then Team Bergamo came in, and they were like, "I think we kind of want you on our team," and they put together a pretty good team from people that were kind of pretty much all over.
Mhm,
And I actually went to Chicago, I believe. No, it was Ohio for Arnold Schwarzenegger's big blowout tournament
mhm,
that he had up there. And it was funny because Clint and Drew and all of us were there, and we were back where they had all the bricks, and we were looking at the bricks, and they were literally frozen to the pallet. We were having to break them off to get them off so we could use them. We were trying to dry them out a little bit. Um, that was a pretty cool tournament. Getting to see Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I think we went there 2 years or 3 years in a row. I can't remember exactly how many years we went. We went quite a few years. We got to see Wesley Snipes, and then one of the late, great martial artists. I'm sure I can do this, hold a can, and do this, and you'll know who I'm talking about.
I was just asking, literally, when you start talking about that tournament, like, yeah, Grandmaster Elton Trouser was at that tournament. I know Phil Superfoot Wallace was at that tournament as well. I'm actually
Yes,
associated with him, actually. I'm one of his black belts as well. But yeah, I remember seeing some stuff from that tournament. And Ohio is not that far away from me. It's far enough, but kind of across the lake a little bit from me. Yeah, so okay, so now you're competing with Team Bergamo. You're winning tons of titles, like power concrete, power concrete elbow. You're like that's probably your most winning division. That's probably the one that you won the most in is the power concrete elbow division.
yes. I've won more at that than any of the other ones. But again, some of them that they don't even do anymore, like the speed concrete. I won
Mhm.
that. That was a lot of fun.
They had
Um,
that for 2 years, I think. Yeah.
yeah, I like that one. It was expensive, but and it was
Oh,
hard to clean up, but
oh,
it was an exciting one.
yeah. And then there was the power. I got in ISA for the power wood chicken. They had
Yeah,
that for a while, and then the year that I saw I would have won it, like 2010, I was pretty sure I was gonna win it, and they switched that over to the three directional wood.
yep,
I think I ended up getting like fourth in that year, and then 2011 is when I won the ISKA three directional, and then 3 years in a row after that, like second place, second place. I keep losing by like one board. It's like crazy, but that's the way it goes, right? So, yep. And then now I know you and you've always mainly competed as a heavyweight, and I've always competed as a lightweight because I'll never hit heavyweight. And you and I clashed in 2015. Yes. Yeah. Nope. Or sorry, 2014. You and myself and Nick Sambry class when the INK. Remember they did the 2 round division there
yep,
for a couple of
yep,
years. So I remember clearly where I won the three directional against you by one board in the first round, and in the second round, which would have been for the world, you beat me by one. And then it was a three-way between yourself, Nick Stanford, and I for the power concrete kicking. I went in there in the lead, and then I ended up when I hit the stack, it exploded instead of breaking cleanly, like the front couple. So
yeah.
I
I
ended up,
remember seeing you kick that and seeing it blow up, and
yeah,
I thought when seeing it, I thought, oh my goodness, he just blew them all up because the way you
yeah.
hit it, man, that was hard kick.
So I mean, I kind of wonder that when those first couple pieces of concrete, were they maybe a little bit softer or something that would have caused it to explode like that and not transfer the power through, or what do you
I
think?
think I think when you hit it with all that power, you hit
Uh-huh.
it with so much power that those top pieces didn't have anywhere else to go but out. And I think that neutralized some of your power. You look at the armor that the military is wearing and has on their tanks. It hits a missile or something hits and explodes back into it and knocks the power back. I think
Uh-huh.
that's what happens a lot of times with some of these good breakers. They hit it with so much power and it just reflects back at them. It's
Yeah,
not
it's
able to
like
penetrate as deep.
yeah, I've done that a couple times in the power concrete elbow. I've had a couple stacks where you hit it, and just the top couple just crumble, and it doesn't transfer the power. And it's like it's like so that's why I know I'm always telling people you want to kind of think about cutting through it, and so it
Right.
doesn't so you're not putting as much oomph, right? Like into it. So, but yeah, I remember that year. That was definitely a good year for television for the ESPN for that to kind of have that little bit of extra. I don't want to say drama, but a little extra excitement where you don't really know who's gonna win. And me being the lightweight competing against you and Nick Samper, who are like top level guys, right? And I'm kind of like the up and coming guy a little bit per se. And then like you guys are always heavyweight coming down to the lightweight division, and then me being like 145 competing against you guys at like 199 is like that kind of adds a little extra to it, right? I think breaking needs a little bit more excitement like that sometimes. I think well, we know a lot of times people misunderstand what we really do.
Right. Yeah, I wanted to. I had when they first started, there weren't any divisions for weight. It was just everybody was together, and then
Mhm,
they made the lightweight and heavyweight divisions. And I'd won a bunch of world titles in the heavyweight division, but I hadn't won any in the lightweight. So I dropped weight to try to get down there. And the first year that they did it, um, the year that I wanted to go down, there wasn't that much competition in that division like I wanted, and
mhm,
there was more in the heavyweight, so I just stayed in the heavyweight. And then the next year, there were so many good guys in the lightweight division that were breaking, and I wanted to compete against them, but I couldn't compete against them like I wanted to, and from the heavyweight division. So I went ahead and got on the scale, and I was the right weight. I was like 198, 197 and a half, something like that. And I competed. Um, but in the next year, I competed. That was a little bit harder. I was like, oh my goodness, this is cutting weight too hard.
mhm,
That year was I won, but that was not a great year as far as weight for me. Losing too much weight like that to stay at that weight. But I think that there's a good crop of lightweight breakers that are there. You got Master Bergamo, you got Fred LaSalle, you, Nick. There's so many good lightweights that have got some good experience, that have really good experience for breaking. So it's cool to see that weight division develop up.
mhm. Now, as Franklin gets a little more popular, hopefully over the years, do you think there might be room for a light, middle, and a heavyweight division? Like some guys like me that are like can barely hit 150 sometimes, even though we try. And then there's guys that are like naturally like 180, 190. But then you got the heavyweight. Some of the lightweight are naturally heavyweight, but they'll drop that weight just to get that advantage. Do you think it would be? I don't want to say fairer, but maybe make it more competitive to have the light, middle, and a heavyweight division, or keep it as like a light and middle, or light and heavy.
Well, if you look at the development of boxing. Boxing used to be, it was everybody was in the same weight division, and then they started breaking it down. And now, boxing is, kickboxing, boxing, even MMA are so popular now because it's the right weight against the right weight
Mhm.
doing exactly the same thing. So yeah, I think that eventually, as the sport grows, more competitors are going to demand it. Because like you said, you weigh 140 pounds. On a good day, you might weigh 150 if you're lucky.
Oh yeah, I
There's
mean,
other there's
yeah, this
I think
morning
that
I'm
it's
yeah, this
I think
morning I weighed 154, but like on average, when I competed, was 145. No matter how much I ate, no matter how much I weight lifted, that's just my body's like, no, your athleticism is based on 145, right? So like having a 150-pound division, then 151 to 199, and then 200 plus, you know. And like I am, it's almost like Boston especially is too watered down though. Where when you get to the point where it's like 5 pounds difference or 3 or 4 pounds difference in the weight division, that's a little too much. But like having just three would be like I think would be good. And then so I know like the women's division at one point needs to be a light heavyweight division, and then they kind of got rid of that because women's ranking is not as popular, unfortunately. Even though there's been some really good women breakers. I've had some really good ones out of my school, and I have a couple really good ones now. And you got ladies like Karen Smith, who's always a good breaker, and trying to think who else. Glenn Ann Townsend was a good female breakers, and probably a couple other ones I'm not thinking of at the moment. But yeah,
Well,
So
yeah,
now,
I've had some really good female breakers, and that
yeah,
needs to be developed, and
mhm,
it can be, but it just we have to make the breaking more popular, and it's unfortunately it's not as popular as it should be, because I mean if you compare fighters, you compare kata guys, and I don't care what they say. I've been to too many karate tournaments where I did a great kata and I didn't get judged properly, or I
mhm,
was fighting somebody and I know I hit them. They told me, later, dude, you got me with that punch. That was hard. You
mhm.
got me with that kick. And judges cannot see everything.
No,
Fighting forms, self-defense. They're going to like one
weapons.
self-defense more than another. It's
Mhm,
about an opinion. Breaking is clean, and I think that's why a lot of people don't gravitate towards the breaking, because there's no way of saying, the judge cheated me. Because if you step up there and you break 16 bricks, and the next guy breaks 17, he won.
mhm,
That's the bottom line. He beat you that day, and they they cannot take it away from you. And I say that all the time. And I've had martial artists get mad at me because I said that. Because it's so clean. It's even. It doesn't matter what you do. If you break 17 bricks and the next guy breaks 18, he wins. That's the bottom line. And that's what I like about it. And that's why I have so many world titles, to be honest about it. If I was a fighter, I see these fighters, 2, 3 years, maybe four, they do great, and then you don't ever see them again. Well, why don't you see them again? Because then they had some bad fights. Breaking, you always can come back. You always know, hey, next year I'll break more, or next
mhm.
year I will do better. I will do this and this and this, or I will train different. It's hard to see, a kata guy, win time after time after time after time after again, like breakers do, because it's not opinionated. It's what you do, and that's why I like it.
Oh, for sure, exactly. Yeah, I've always said that power breaking is like the most fairest competition out there. Like it's literally you did it or you didn't. Everybody can see it. It's quantitative. Plus, people don't realize like when we go to competition, we get the material for all the power breaking or speed breaking, whatever we're doing, from the promoter. It's the exact same material. We don't really even get a chance to select it per se. So we're all in the same boat. So like what you were mentioning earlier about going to the competition where it was like frozen ice. Well, everybody's in the same boat. When we were over in England, competing in England and Ireland, it's different material over there, and all the competitors had it. When you guys come up here to Canada, the Canadian concrete is way different than the concrete you're gonna hit in Florida, but it's all the competitors get the exact same material. So that's the best thing. And then the only I guess non um subjective or objective ranking is the creative ranking, right? Creative ranking is still subjective because you can have certain judges that prefer more power, some more prefer more creative, some prefer more showmanship. That's all but it's still to the most part, at least in the ISK, I found the ISK judges have always been relatively even. Like they're pretty, like they're not completely out there. Where some of the other organizations sometimes are a little iffy. But no, yeah, like power breaking, speed breaking, depending on what the division is, it's quantitative. High jump breaking, quantitative. Yeah, you can't get much more fair than that. And then the other thing about our sport is competitors, we help each other. Like, what are you gonna? You're not gonna find that in almost any other martial art competition where well, you can't really, but like we're trying to help each other. We're setting up for each other. We're holding boards and concrete for each other. We clean up for each other. Like we want the best breaker to win, even if we aren't friends or we don't get along, but we still have that mutual respect as competitive breakers.
Yeah, that you said that. Um, when first year that Chip Townsend came in, he didn't do very well in his divisions, and the next year I don't think he did very well either. But he was coming up, and I
Mm-hmm.
I pulled him off to the side, and I told him, I said, man, you have got to add some hand techniques because once you add some hand techniques, you're going to be undefeated. And the next year, he came back and he added a few hand techniques. And what did he do? He won, and he deserved it. His creative routine that year was really good. He was really good at that kick that he did, where he'd kick one brick and jump in the air and kick the other brick.
The
That
whole
was
free fall,
really a
yeah.
cool brick.
Yeah.
Uh, and you know, you look at Elton Trowler, you know, Grandmaster Elton Trowler, one of the best breakers, creative breakers in the world. His Coke can trick, not a trick, a break. You know,
Yeah.
my student was holding for him, like you were saying, we help each other, and he was holding the brick like that for him, and Elton just stuck his fingers right through that brick. It was
Mhm.
amazing, and my student goes, I don't know how he did that. That was too cool. He did it with just his fingertips. And you know, you look at Master Bergamo at his age, take a coconut in the palm of his hand and break it. You don't do that. You get guys that'll put it on concrete and break it, but
Mhm.
to hold it in the palm of your hand and break it, you know, that's just phenomenal.
Yeah, and
Um,
then you get guys like Sifu Keith Fanning from Ireland that can break concrete with one finger and take the block, turn them sideways,
and
and
break them. Yeah,
do that was nobody does that. And then you got guys like you that do the backflip and breaking. For a guy that of your size, you shouldn't be doing that. You know what I mean? Like it's normally you got guys like Mitt Linux that were grabbing there and held him down. Like you know what I mean? And then
yeah.
you
He's
have guys like
Mitt Linux was like one of the best breakers in the world.
who,
Be able to do the tricks that he could do with his body and still, you know, knock down some pretty decent sized stacks for as
yeah.
little as he was. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
'cause
a little guy.
he was actually slightly smaller than I was.
Yeah,
Just put it in
yeah,
perspective, yeah, like, that's why he was able to jump, like, 11 feet in the air
right.
and
Well,
break upside down. Like,
you look
that
at
shouldn't
like
be possible.
you look at people like Paul Hickey, where he breaks unstacked, unspaced bricks, boom,
Marbles,
and
yeah,
blows them up. You know, and
yep,
until I saw Paul Hickey, you know, Clinton Murphy and I were the only ones that were breaking unstacked materials. Everybody else was, you know, always putting spacers in.
mhm,
But I guess Jeff Brown out of California, he was another one that would break unspaced bricks. But he would put up a stack of them and break one brick in there. That was
mhm.
cool. That was really cool breaking.
Oh, like, he would specifically hit, like, the hit stack and break the bottom one?
High level key breaks is what they
Yeah,
are.
like, so Seafood Fanning does that. Everybody's recognized that from the movie Bloodsport, which, Jean-Claude Van Damme, I think that's where everybody recognizes that from. Yeah, and then that's another aspect of, breaking is the unspaced, so everybody kinda always, yaks at us or online about, like, "Oh, you have spacers in between, and, you hit the top brick, and it helps break the next one, and it breaks the next one, and we're not hitting that hard." And then we start playing around with unspaced, which is a lot harder. And physics wise, it's not like we have uh, a slab of concrete, you add a second one. It's not double the four. There's a number in there, and every time you add that extra unspaced, that number jumps dramatically. So it makes it multiple times harder than what you think it would. I know most of the competition records that I've done, mainly with the unspaced wood, have been mainly all with unspaced versus spaced, and that's so much harder to do.
Yeah, people don't realize how much harder it is when it's unspaced. You know, when we started doing the power sidekick on the machine, and matter of fact, I still have the machine that you won on. I still have that machine. I bought that machine um, for the power sidekick,
Okay.
and we've actually got competition here in Texas to where we use that machine for side kick, round kick, front kick, whatever kick they want to try to throw.
Mhm.
We still have that machine, but you know, to see people do unspaced, it's a different animal than spaced. Spaced, like you said, is easier. The cool thing about unspaced is you got to be hitting it with tremendous amount of speed to break it, and if you don't, it's not going to break. And I don't care how big you are, it's not going to break.
Yeah, no, I think that was the advantage that I had as a lightweight competitor. I had a lot of speed. I know for maybe 4 or 5 years, I was like winning almost every chicken competition I was doing for an unspaced. But the reason was because when I practice all the time, because you and I have discussions where we're always practicing. One of a competitor asked one of my guys like, "How does he kick so hard?" And he's like, "He kicks every day." And I won. For probably about 2.5 years. I would come down to my dojo, and we have a kicking machine as well. And my dad and I would kick every day. We spent 20 minutes to half an hour every day, just five, six, seven, eight break, really good break. Then we would call it, but it was like consistency every day for 2.5 years. Like we're talking like Christmas morning, wake up, go open up your present, eat, go train. Like that's what it took to become a top competitor in that division. I kind of missed that division, but like I ended up tearing my groin, so I've been kicking like I should last few years. But now let's move on to organizations. So we initially talked about the ISKA and we talked about the NBL a little bit. Now, and you and I have also been directors for the USBA, WBA, so the United States World Break Association. You and I were both regional local directors for that for a while, and we all kind of decided to go off and do our own thing. And you currently have a organization called the Elite Breakers.
Yes, that's correct. Elite
Put that
Breakers.
on the screen there. Elite Breakers Association.com for anybody that interested in that down in Texas. Is it mainly in Texas or a couple other states down there or
Texas, Kansas, and parts in Oklahoma right
and
now.
Oklahoma? So what do you guys do with that then? Like what do you guys do with the Elite Breakers?
Well, the Elite Breakers, we just keep track of everybody's points that go to the tournaments that I'm associated with, and they accumulate points towards the U.S. Open or towards that local, sector. Like we have the AOK, and last year we had TKO state championships and AOK state championships, and then also there's the UTA. Which is Taekwondo Association, but they've also have breaking in there, and we're
Mm-hmm.
associated with them.
Okay, that's
So
good.
there's a lot of people that go to these tournaments that actually can accumulate points towards the U.S. Open. So the way it works is if they accumulate points in our sector, then those points transfer to the U.S. Open. At the
So when you
U.S.
say
Open, they're not going to get the number one seed if that person comes back. So, like, if somebody comes in that's number one from last year and is still in that division, they're number one seed. But we could get second seed or
okay.
third seed depending on the USBA points because our points factor in with the USBA points. So if
Okay,
we have somebody,
so when you're talking about that, so when you're saying the point for the U.S. Open, are we talking in the USBA division, which is on the Friday, which is the amateur division, or are we talking like ISK which is on the Saturday, which is considered the professional ranking?
just the USBA.
Okay, so it has no real bearing towards ISK. Okay,
Not yet. Not yet.
okay, yeah,
Eventually,
well, yeah,
eventually it will. And in
yeah,
years past, when I was a director, I had guys qualified when they first brought out the Power Sidekick. I had two guys that qualified here in Texas to go and compete at the ISK level.
yeah,
Um, but they didn't choose to go, which was sad because they were really good kickers.
yeah. Yeah, so I know
Um,
I'm part of the Coral Breaking Federation, which is another one that's run by Mike Reed, which is like the original ISK breaker. He's the reason why I guess all of us are breaking in the ISK. If it wasn't for him, there would no ISK breaking. But like you and I, we discussed before we popped on, we were talking a little bit about how we feel that all of the organizations, so like ISK, UFEA, Coral, elite breakers, we all should be working together toward, trying to help grow the sport, right? Like there should never be a monopoly of just one organization. We should all be trying to help each other. And like so every organization kind of has its own specific area, right? And we try to meet each area. It's almost like the old wrestling territories back in the day, where each or every territory has wrestlers, and then they end up competing in one bigger territory. It's almost the same thing with ranking, where we need different territories or different areas developing their breakers, and then we all kind of come together under ISA, for example.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, in that in back in the day when the NBL was really big, they had different regions where you could qualify to go to the world tournament. So it's amazing to see that finally, you know, the regions can come together. And I push real hard for the U.S. Open every time I go to a breaking seminar, when I do a breaking seminars, or when I in competition, I try to get people to go because until they, you know, they always say, "Oh, that's too big of a tournament." No, it's not. It's not that big because you're good at what you do. You should go and try to compete against the guys that are good. You know, you can stay in your little pond and be a big fish, but when you get in that big pond, you know, there's big fish out there. Can you beat them too? And that's where you become a true world champion martial artist. You know, like when Barbie and Stan Witt had their big tournaments, you know, there was people from all over the United States, and there's people from Hawaii and some from Mexico and a few from Canada, but it wasn't all over the whole world. You know, when you go to the U.S. Open, you may run into somebody from Jamaica, you might run into somebody from, you know, Germany, um, all over the United States, and that's what I think is cool. I want to see the best compete against the best, and you know, to be able to go to one tournament and see the best of the best, and know, you know, that, you know, hey, I competed against the best, whether I won, lost, or whatever. You know, how did we do? You know, and my little wife, she's soaking wet. She's 120 pounds, and she went to the U.S. Open, and I believe she has 8 or 9 world titles. You know, in the first year she went, she was like, "Oh, I can't compete against them." I'm like, "Yeah, you can. Just try. You don't know until you try." And once they try and they see, "Oh, I can do this," then it makes a big difference in them as a martial artist, and adds to their life as a person. Because you think in your head, if I can do this and compete at this level, I can do anything. And I think God wants us to be able to have that little tool in our tool pouch that says, I can do anything. And, you know, as martial arts, as we train, it teaches us, hey, you can do anything. You have to train, but you can do anything if you train hard enough.
Oh, I totally agree with that. I definitely, well, like, when I started in 2007 with the USDA and US Open, that it was like, let's just jump on a plane and see what happens. No expectations, right? Second, third, fourth place. The next year, I'm literally winning my first, like, USDA world title, and it kind of went from there. The US Open made my competitive career of 12 world titles, and then being able to compete, like, all over North America, England, Ireland. And what the beauty of that, competing with so many different countries, like, we've literally, the US Open's always had like 50 some plus countries, right? And we get to meet each other. Like, it's amazing how many different friends we have made over the years. Like, you and I would never have met otherwise. I would never have met Grandmaster Nick Sampson, who's actually currently watching right now, or Keith Fannin from Ireland, or like there's just or all it's all different breakers. Not even breakers, like even like people that like spar and the weapon competitors and the form competitors. Like, we get to meet them at the U.S. Opens, and we truly do get to see the best of the best of the best in the world, and be able to compete with them it's like something, if you win or lose, I always come back inspired to to go harder and train harder to try new events. Just because of the level of talent that's at the Coronado Springs Resort every year. It's phenomenal. I've had people come down from my school just to go watch. They didn't want to compete, but just to watch, and that inspired them. Or some of the parents that have come with the kids, and they get inspired to start training or compete. And I want people to realize I'm a big advocate of competing, whether you want to compete at the world international level, or if you just want to compete at local tournaments. I think everybody should, because you know martial
Well,
arts,
you
part of
did.
the art is combat, right? Whether it's physical combat one on one, or whether it's combat in the breaking arena, combat in the weapons division, or sparring. I think it's important.
Well, you know, you say that, and you're exactly right. one year, I believe it was the second or third year that I went to the U.S. Open, and I was flying in, and my daughter Samantha was with me, and I seen this big, huge monster guy getting on the plane. He could barely fit in the seat, and I seen him, and I when we got off the plane, I said, "Hey, are you going to the U.S. Open?" And he was a monster. His name was Steve Carrier, and he turned to me and he said, "Yes, I've come here to beat you." And I was like, "Oh crud! How do you even know about me?" Because I'd won the year before.
Huh.
And then Mike Reeves walked up and said, "Hey, how you doing?" And was talking to him because Mike Reeves had talked to him about coming in
Okay.
and breaking. And I believe that was the year that there was three-way tie or a two-way tie, and they all had 13 up, and nobody thought they could break more than 13.
Yeah, I
So
think I heard of
I set up 14 and blew up 14 and won it. But then this year, I was actually helping the USBA judge some divisions, and I was doing all the breaking divisions. And a
mhm.
guy from Canada, your buddy, that's not too far away from you, you know who I'm
Yep.
talking about.
Mhm.
He he broke 13 bricks, and he was set up and he blew him up, and I mean I was like, wow, that's a good break. I'm impressed. That's good. And he goes, yes, I've come here to beat you. And I was like, oh my goodness. It was like deja vu all over again. And it was cool. I've been blessed. I've been so blessed through martial arts. I never would have, like you were saying, I would never met you. I'd never met Steve Carrier. I'd never met the Humphreys. Do you remember the Humphreys,
Yeah,
the
you
brothers
know
that
what?
wrote?
You were there the year before, your last year was the year before mine, so I never met them in person, but I've seen tons of footage of them. Yeah, I would have liked to have met them, but yeah.
They were good breakers, but I never would have got to meet them. And I was
Mhm.
I was blessed enough. I was on the Jay Leno show,
Yep.
with Jay Leno. That was cool. And then I got to be on the Tom Green show, which was awesome. Um, and
Yeah, you're
the
on the same show.
blessings that have come have just they've been very, very good to me. Almost enough to break my heart when I think about it, of all the people that I've got to meet. Even the ones that weren't a world champion year after year after year, but you still see them and you're like, hey man, it's good to see you. It's it's like almost like a family reunion when we get together with all these martial artists. I think that there's going to be some new faces this year that we haven't seen in a long time, that are going to be coming back. That will be really good to see them that we haven't seen in a long time. Um, it's amazing when we all get together and get to compete in something that we all enjoy doing.
Well, that's another thing that we were discussing. I was discussing with somebody the other day, and like with ranking, was that, like no matter what you end up doing, everybody's so supportive and cheers. Like as long as you're out there and you're trying your best, everybody's just like grateful that you were out there competing. Like whether you broke 5 slabs of concrete that day, or you broke 10, or whatever it was, or you won first place, or you got third, or you got last. As long as you're out there trying, we're all like, we all understand what we're going through to get to this level of competition, and very supportive. Now, I know what you were just mentioning about like having competitors come up to you and say, "I'm here to beat you." I know I've had a couple of moments like that too. I had it was Seth Britton. Remember Seth Britton?
Yeah, I
Was
remember
trained
Seth.
was crazy,
Yep.
was very, very crazy in breaking. And he told me the one time he's like, yeah, the reason why I'm here is because I saw you breaking. And I wanted to break. I'm like, what the heck? Like,
It it's great to be inspiration for somebody. It
yeah,
really
yeah,
is
yeah.
great to be inspiration.
Like, I'm very humble and very quiet. I think most people know that. Even though I talk sometimes a lot, but at the same time, like, well, that's kind of cool. Or and you probably had these moments too where you have these little kids come up to you after a competition, right? And they're gobsmacked. They're like, oh my god, right? I had this one kid come up to me, and it was funny. He came up to me and he had this baseball bat, and he came up and he's like, and he couldn't hardly look at me in the eyes. He's like, Masterfield, you're a very good breaker. I've seen all your YouTube videos. And you're like super famous person. I'm like, oh my god, really? Like, not really, but but to that kid, right? To that kid, I was an inspiration to that kid, and I say that not to brag, but just people are gonna realize like when you're out there doing what you love to do, you're gonna just fire somebody. And like that's one thing. Like you gotta watch yourself and to make sure that you are acting accordingly. But at the same time, like just go out there and do what you love to do, and stuff will like really great stuff is gonna happen. And then I remember this kid had his baseball bat, and I had one that I just broke. And I'm looking at this change. I got this bat. I'm like, "You want my bat?" You know, sure. I'm like, "Hey, I'm not doing the broken bat, right? Who cares?" But
Mm.
to that kid, that was everything. And then like I don't know, 10 minutes later, he comes by and he wants me to sign his bat. Okay, sure. And then I'm assuming it was his grandfather was there, and he was holding his phone. I'm like, want a picture? Like, how do you didn't want to ask? I'm like, I'll do whatever this kid wants. If it makes him happy, I'll do it, right? Like, I'll take 5 minutes out of my day to make somebody happy. Like, now, so we get those moments like that too, which is kind of cool, you know?
Well, and here in Texas, I do a lot of tournaments, and there was a girl that had came in, and I'd seen her like 2 or 3 years before, and she came in and she had gone through chemo and she was in a wheelchair, and she said, My braking that I've modeled my braking after you," and I was almost in tears because she was her whole what she was saying to me was that she got through cancer thinking about braking,
Hmm.
and that made me feel very good that she went through something that was catastrophic to her
Hmm.
and was able to get past it because of what she learned in braking. And I remember her first time I seen her brake, she didn't brake very much, and then the next time she did better. But yeah, to be an inspiration to these people, it's especially kids. When I see them brake and their eyes light up, I mean that makes me I get more excited sometimes than they do. Because
Yeah.
I
Nope.
know they did it and they did it on their own, and they were maybe even half scared of it before they did it.
Exactly. No, I've been in the same boat where I've done a lot of different seminars up here, and yeah, they can get somebody to do something they've never done before, and they never saw it was possible. Especially the kids. But sometimes you get like older teenagers or adults, they're shocked at what they just did. It's
Right,
like
right.
they didn't think this was possible. Well, anything's possible. Somebody you just need a teacher to open up the door for you, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to walk through that door. So even though
Right.
we might
Right.
help them, at the end of the day, it was all them. It truly was all them.
Yep. Yeah. That looking back in my past, there's been things that I've come through that I would not have been able to come through if it wasn't for um, the faith that I have in martial arts. Well, first my faith in God, but my ability that I've had through martial arts. I don't know if you know this or not, but I got COVID real bad, and I was in ICU for 72 days. They weren't expecting me to live. They did a trach down my throat. They took the top part of my lung out. I look like a stab wound victim now. I've got so many scars on my side and my back. Um, but I remember when I first woke up, I was trying to sit up and I couldn't even sit up. I mean, being in a bed for that long, you can't really, your muscles almost atrophy. And
Mhm.
I'm like feeling my legs, and I'm like, I thought when I first woke up, I thought they cut my legs off. I thought that my legs were gone, and I was trying to feel them, and I'm trying to sit up, and as I'm going back, I'm feeling my body, and I'm like, where did I go? I
Mhm.
mean, I went from 245 pounds to 178 pounds, you know,
Holy crap.
and it was a horrible, horrible experience. But I remember when I was on the walker trying to walk, and they were trying to stand me up. I kept thinking in my head, no matter what happens, you can get through this
Mhm.
because you have an experience in martial arts that has prepared you for to have to get through this. If you can get through this, if you can get through what's happened to you in the past as a martial artist, you can get through anything. And being able to pull from that, I was able to start walking. And I think the first time that I walked, I took 6 steps, and then the next time I was like, I'm going to do better. It's that competition in myself. I'm going to do better. Next time I took 11, then 14, and then I was up to like 30 or 40. But it
Mhm.
was it was a battle, a different kind of a battle, but it was still a battle. And I knew because of my martial arts experience, I could do it. And
Hmm.
that's the thing that people don't realize. We're designed to be able to do a lot more than what we do.
For sure, yeah. No, the human body and the human spirit are definitely something that's hard to break. If you truly believe that you're hard to break, you are. So we're almost at the hour. So you run it's Abilene Mixed Martial Arts Karate and Fitness, I believe it's
Yes, yes.
your school name. So can you tell us for like another minute or two? Can you kind of tell us a little bit about the classes that you teach and different programs you have, and how anybody could reach out to you if they want to go to your school or if they want to learn breaking or anything like that? Like.
Well, I'm currently my phone number is 325-280-2305, and we're in Abilene, Texas. Give me a call and I can go over the what we do. We teach traditional Japanese martial arts, kata, self-defense, breaking. Um, we have a lot of kids and we have some adults that come in and work out. And I've got some really good adults. As a matter of fact, I've got some that are talking about going to the U.S. Open this year. I don't know if you remember Tate Shelton or not. He's the one that had the record for the foot stomp for like 17 boards when he was a kid. He had
Did
that
you
for a long
did you
time.
wear a Superman shirt one year?
I don't remember. I don't
Okay.
remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a character, and he's back with me now, and his kids are with me. And that's something else that we didn't talk about as martial artists. It's fun because I mean, you've been teaching a long time. It's
Always,
cool when you
always,
teach a kid
yeah.
as a little dragon, and then they
Yep.
bring their kids to you. That's really cool. Master Bergamo was telling me about that, and it's awesome to be able to have that happen where you teach the dad or the mom, and then you're teaching their kids and their kids' kids. That's really cool to be able to do that.
Yeah. So I put your school website up on the screen here for anybody that wants to check out. Gonna hold you for breaking and like I said, literally that's what I did was I literally called you up. I got your phone number off the video, and you're the first breaker I ever talked to. The rest is history. Actually, I want to tell one last story before we pop off. Now, I remember, like, in the year that you dropped down to lightweight and you and I class, I remember I heard that from Seth Britton. I was at the pepper market at Coronado. I was eating with some of my girls, and Seth Britton comes up and he's like, Larry Fields dropped to lightweight. They're like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, he dropped down to lightweight." I'm like, "I didn't know that." Because you and I were at that time were always like we are now. We're always texting each other, right? Talking, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like you didn't tell me. I'm like, so one of my girls was like, "Well, what are you gonna do about it?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna beat him." And you know what? I didn't lie. And I beat you in the first round, and you beat me in the second
Yeah,
round. So whatever, right? But that was my reaction. Like I didn't panic. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna beat him. Like and that's what happens, right? Like that's part of any competition where sometimes your friend, well, your idol will become your rival, and eventually your rivals become your friend, which is kind
yeah,
of cool. If it's done properly and you don't go in with an ego and a chip on your shoulder, and you're not a hole, and you're just out there to do your best you can and whatever. Like that circle will happen where yeah, you know what? I watched that guy. He's awesome. Oh, now I'm competing against that guy. Oh, now I'm really good friends with him. Like that's awesome, right? But I want to thank you for being the third guest on our podcast. I'm hoping that we'll get you on again eventually, and I'm hoping I will see you in July for the U.S. Open.
yeah. That's the plan. I'll look forward to seeing you.
Thank you,
And
sir. And
thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me on here. I appreciate it.
you're welcome.